Today I got a special guest for you, none other than my brother Michael James Jr. I'll give him the floor to let him kind of explain, not explain, but to say, who he is.
Currently, right now, I have a job. I'm a W-2 employee.
Talk to us about where you were when you started that business.
A little bit about myself, but I was in my current role. And what's crazy is currently I'm a supervisor, and I have like a team of like 18. So I have to manage about 18 people. 18 drivers to be exact. My neighbor showed me how to cut grass, and so I probably would have been a whole lot further along. Credit, probably would have been able to get way more better lawnmowers earlier on to where I wouldn't have been working as hard as I was working. So I was really doing it backwards. I didn't have no type of mentor, but I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm so glad that I didn't have no mentor, because now when I look at stuff, now you got all these different people talking about real estate. You even got people talking about the lawnmower stuff, the landscaping stuff.
Your income, yes, is important, but how much you keep is just as, if not more important.
Pull out this little shovel that I almost didn't take with me. I had to pull that one out, and I still got the job done. The last event that didn't make it so perfect was somebody said that, hey, I threw some salt down last night. You don't have to come. So that was $50 that I didn't get to make. I want to be an entrepreneur. It was really more so I know how to cut grass. I got people hitting me up. And I don't have enough courage to tell this person, no, I'm not gonna cut your grass. I don't have enough courage to sit there and waddle in the person next to me knowing that I cut grass going, you just told them you don't cut grass? So it was more of I don't wanna say I got shamed into doing it, but that's kind of like my upbringing. I was kind of shamed for a lot of stuff, so.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Success Spectrum Podcast, where we dive deep into the world of finance, entrepreneurship, and personal development. Today, I got a special guest for you. All right. This is one of my friends, my brothers, and we connected, 3-4 years ago, 2021. And it's been just an amazing journey, to be honest, being able to see where we were and where we are now. And the way we connected was, I think, divine intervention, right? So none other than my brother, Michael James Jr., and I'll give him the floor to let him kind of explain, not explain, but to say, who he is, which we're going to unpack throughout the episode. But Mike, please, thank you for being here, first of all. And secondly, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, no doubt, man. But real quick, it was a little bit more than divine intervention, because you was prepared, bro. So y'all, I don't know what everybody else know you as. I mean, obviously you advertise yourself as coach, but a little bit of the way it went was, I felt so much I felt the genuine connection between, bro. We was in this like a small community. It was about, I'll say about 8 or 9 of us actively interacting, and bro was just, me and him was just super interactive on a daily basis, and it wasn't like forced or nothing like that. And towards the end of the I think the time of the session, I'm like, bro, we should do an interview or something. And bro shot me this link super quick, something that during that time I wouldn't have known nothing about. But yeah, that's a little bit about how me and bro connected. A little bit about myself. Currently, right now, I have a job. I'm a W-2 employee. That's currently part of my brand. I have a job, and I'm a supervisor. And on the side of that, I have a lawn care business. And so when I'm not at work, you bound to find me either with a rake in my hand or a lawnmower or a shovel. So that's what we do, man. And that's that's who we are.
Constantly at work. So with that lawn care business, so it sounds to me like you are, you're, like you said, W-2 employee, right? So for anybody over here, that's a T4, you're a regular employee, let's call it, over here in Canada. But you also have a business, right? So talk to us about where you were when you started that business and some of the things that led to you starting that business.
Man, so I was actually at a job that was about, I want to say about maybe 25 minutes from where I currently am now, maybe less, because I was living in Detroit when I first started at the job. But I was in my current role, and what's crazy is currently I'm a supervisor, and I have like a team of like 18. So I have to manage about 18 people, 18 drivers to be exact. And during that time, it was almost like I was the management of the Baylor area, something that I kind of like just took initiative of because I didn't want, they kind of told me, hey man, you're going to be doing this from this time to this time. But when that time came for me to pass it over, it wasn't, it wasn't in good shape. So I'm like, I don't want to pass over no bad work with my name on it. And that's kind of like how I got my managerial experience. But to go back to the question, I was in that area when I came up with the idea, and I was cutting grass at the time. I've been cutting grass really 15 plus years. I started cutting my mom's grass because my neighbor showed me at the time. He showed me how to cut grass. He's like, you want to learn how to cut grass, boy? We actually got a book that's going to come out that's going to touch more and go in depth on the story. But my neighbor showed me how to cut grass, and I just kept cutting and I found out about this thing called an LLC. I don't know what they call it in Canada, but in the States, they call it an LLC. And, just hearing about that, like, man, you can start your own business. It's like, oh, word. So not necessarily taking it serious, but I took it serious enough. And whoever out there, all you got to do is take something serious a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can worry about how cute it is later. Somebody put me up on game, my man, Allen. But I threw the LLC behind it because I said to myself, I'm like, you know what? I cut grass, so this is all I got to offer. I got a little lawnmower. I got all the tools that I need, and I'm gonna get the job done. And to be honest with you, even looking back from now, yesterday I was shoveling snow. I ain't seen nobody out there hardly. I seen a couple people out there, but it just showed me over 10 years ago when I was like cutting grass on my trunk. Why be embarrassed when there ain't nobody out here anyways? I low key, there was like a 1% of me that was embarrassed. Not necessarily I'm ashamed, but just because when you coming from where I come from, anything, just the way you wear your hat is something wrong with it. So it was just the 1%, man, I got this lawnmower in my trunk, but I didn't care. It was more so, man, you know what? I cut grass. Somebody told me about the LLC. Oh, somebody told me you can go get some business cards. Oh, okay, let me go get some business cards. And I just kept foolishly going after cutting grass, and now it just seems like one by one, I'm collecting another contact without advertising.
Okay, so, yeah. I love how you broke that down there. I appreciate that, and we'll unpack that, of course, a little bit. But listen, so we'll come back to what you just said. I know you, right? But for anybody who's listening to this who doesn't necessarily know you, to go back to it in maybe a couple minutes here, how would you describe or like introduce yourself, right? I know you mentioned you got the job, you got the lawn care business, but to somebody who doesn't know you, for anybody listening who's not familiar with you, how would you introduce yourself?
Man, so my name Mike. I'm a regular dude. All I'm trying to do is share all the information that was given to me, that was passed down to me, and share with the world to show the world how much the world is a better place, even with some of the foolishness and the ugliness that we got going on. Just a regular dude, man. I'm married. I've been married going on 8 years. It's been a beautiful time. Ins and outs. I always say that I feel like marriage is forgot the word that I use, but it's more so for you to get yourself together. You know what I'm saying? I know people get married because they fall in love with a person, but I feel like my wife is more so helping me develop the man that I'm supposed to be for her and for the world. Yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm not famous. Again, I'm a W-2 employee, and I think I'm just gonna rep that for the rest of my life, even if we become famous with that. So a W-2, just to break it down, the W-2 employee, what that actually means is you have the heart of someone who wants to work hard, someone who wants something better for themselves, their family, or people around them, and they're going to use what they currently have to get where they ultimately want to be. And that's where that name came from, because we currently have a job, and everything that we do currently is based off of the jobs that we had. So we just ran with it.
Do you have a child in your life who loves to color? A niece, a nephew, a son, a daughter, a neighbor? Remember when we grew up, we did A for apple, B for banana, and so on? There's something new in town. It's going to change generations financially. It's called Money Magic, ABC. This is a financial coloring book. They get fun pictures to draw, to color in. But instead of A for apple, we got A for asset. We got B for budget. We got C for crowdfunding. This is going to, while they're enjoying themselves, teach them the financial terms that we didn't know growing up. the financial terms that some of us still don't know. Financial literacy is key and vital. And instead of learning A for Apple, learning A for asset at such a young age, it's going to change their financial mindset into the future. They'll be able to start off ahead of the ball, right? Ahead of the game. So go ahead and get yourself a copy and give this gift. Give the gift of financial literacy to your children and the children in your life today. Go ahead and click that link in the description and get yourself a copy. So first of all, I always got to do this, but shout out to Mrs. James. To go back to what you were saying earlier about, by the way, if you see me look down or hold my phone, it's because I have questions on here that I think some of them would be perfect for the conversation. But again, we talk about entrepreneurship on this podcast. As you know, we talk about personal development and we talk about finance. So we're going to try to cover as much as we can in the time that we got together. And one of the things I heard you say, two of the things really, was you were talking about your business and kind of how it got started, right?
Yeah.
Did you realize that you love to, I call it manicure lawns, right? I know you say cut grass. I know everyone will say cut grass, but the way I've seen you do what you do, I say you manicure lawns, especially having so many hours and years put into the craft, which we can always talk about the 10,000 hours. The 10,000 hours to become a master at something. Over the 15 years, would you say you put in those 10,000 hours?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy to even think that I've probably put in 10,000 or more. And even with the 10,000 hours, there's still sometimes an element of fear associated with what I do.
Absolutely. And that's, to go back to it, that's the part that I love. And that's what I wanted to come back to, which is you said still foolishly going out there and manicuring lawns, right? So when you started your business initially, what I know you said kind of foolishly going out there and manicuring lawns, but how did that really make you feel about doing that? Because as a starting entrepreneur, we know there's so many different feelings and emotions that come along with it, not necessarily knowing the path or what's to come, or when you'll really hit, let's say, those targets that you have. So in those moments where you were still going out there and even define what you meant by foolish, if you can, but what kind of thoughts were going through your mind? What kind of feelings were coming up during that time?
Man, I'm gonna give it to you raw. So I honestly didn't want to be out there doing it. It's hot outside. When you cut grass going all over the place. So I really don't want to do this, but I know how to do it. And I'm not going to stray away from something that I know how to do. The second thing is, anytime, and this may be bad, but when you attach $1 to something, and I know how to do that thing, I'm all over it. And don't let me figure out I can manipulate the numbers or I can put on a number and it still get bit. Oh, real quick. Yesterday, and this is why I don't like texting, because you don't know the tone. I thought I sent somebody some bad information, or I'm like, dang, they ain't gonna mess with this. And they sent it back. Like, okay. About an hour later, the payment coming through now. Also, can you add my sister on as well? Here I am thinking, dang, maybe I charge too much. Like, a person will still pay in my industry, but they won't tell you that they feeling some type of way. To go forward, man, I really didn't want to be out here. I remember, man, it would be days where I would get off work and it would be super hot outside, and I would have to go out there. But to be real, I think what it was, because when I really look back, an extra $30, $40 is not really a whole lot. But it was something, though. It was like, yo, I just made an extra $30, $40. And I kind of got off on that. And the reason why I say foolishly is because I did it not knowing how much money I could make, because I had a spending problem. I always knew how to go get money, but I had a spending problem. And I'm going to be honest with you, my spending problem just kind of got under control recently. I've just always been able to match what I spent. So you talk about a person, put your money where your mouth is. I'm gonna put my money every dollar. I'm gonna match you where you at. Even if it's even if it means me going check to check, I'm gonna match. I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. That's just what it is. But like I said, foolishly, I didn't realize at the time, like, yo, Mike, you really just got a spending problem and you don't know how to save. So I probably would have been a whole lot further along credit, probably would have been able to get way more better lawnmowers earlier on, to where I wouldn't have been working as hard as I was working. So I was really doing it backwards. I didn't have no type of mentor, but I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm so glad that I didn't have no mentor, because now when I look at stuff, now you got all these different people talking about real estate. You even got people talking about the lawnmower stuff, the landscaping stuff, but nobody really was able to like sit. I can't nobody come and say we showed you how to do that. Even my man that initially put me on, he can show me how to push it across the grass. He ain't even show me how to weed whack for years. I wasn't even weed whacking. So I'll stop right there, man, because I know you want to cut in.
Yeah, there's a few things there. One of those being, okay, one of them is the allure of entrepreneurship. And you said some things that were, I definitely want to touch on. But before we go there, quickly, I want to talk about the financial piece, because I think, based off of my experience in dealing with, having clients and sitting with people, looking at their financial situation, helping them to get to the financial destination they want to get to, most people do have a spending problem. A lot of people have a spending problem. And I love the way you broke it down, because your aim at the time was to bring up your income to match the spending that you wanted to do, right? And so with that mindset, things don't necessarily work out the way you intend them to, because you end up just spending and not saving. When in reality, I've said this many times on this podcast and on my platforms and to people, it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep. Your income, yes, is important, but how much you keep is just as, if not more important, right? Because there's something called your net worth. People focus on income, but your net worth is your assets minus your liabilities. So if you're not saving and investing and building your assets, then your liabilities, your debts, you're in the negative. And you don't become a millionaire from your income, you become a millionaire from your net worth, building assets, right? So you can make all the money in the world you want to make, but if you're spending that same amount of money, you got nothing left over. You're still at ground zero. Yep. Right? And you touched on that, which is powerful, because, and as an entrepreneur, we got to realize we got to put away some money into assets. We got to invest, right? And a lot of times, you can tell me if you agree or disagree, but we'll start some type of business because we think about the lifestyle that we want and the lifestyle that the business can offer us, right? And therefore, of course, the increased income we can get from that business, but we don't end up putting our dollars in the right areas to help us get to that lifestyle, right? Again, we keep spending it, right? So to go back to it though, you touched on a few things when it comes to, again, the allure of entrepreneurship, which is you didn't start off making $1,000 a month. You didn't start off making an extra $5,000 a month, right? So talk to us about that piece in terms of, was it everything you thought it was? Was it everything that people portrayed to be entrepreneurship? Or was it a bit of a grind? Because you mentioned you didn't want to be out there, right? And based off of that comment, it sounds like you don't have to necessarily want to and love to do it every single day. So talk about that piece for us if you can.
Okay.
I wrote a book for you, and it's called Wings of Abundance, your strategic guide to uplift and empower you to financial overflow. What this book talks about is, one thing I like to talk about is the financial map. There's 2 points on any map. One is where you are, and the next one is where you want to go. This book, this strategic guide, will help you to determine where you are and where you want to go, and will also help you to bridge the gap. We talk about money mindset. We talk about the application of all the information that you know about finances and all the information that's in this book for you. There's resources in the back of the book. There's bonus information in there. We talk about how to overcome debt, how to build wealth, generational wealth. There's so many different strategies in here that you can utilize for yourself to get you to where you want to be financially. So again, if this is something that sounds interesting to you or anybody you know, because it's written in a language that even teenagers could read it, go ahead and click that link in the description and get yourself a copy.
Okay, so reframe that. Like, what's the question?
So the question is, first of all, you know what people say about entrepreneurship, right? In terms of how they make it seem like it's this beautiful dream that everybody should do, right? Everybody should be an entrepreneur, right? That's what's going on nowadays. It's the buzzword. People talk about it. People therefore think that they need to be an entrepreneur, even if they have a W-2 or T4, they're an employee. And therefore, it kind of throws them off track. Even though they love their job, they love what they do, right? That's one aspect of it. So the second piece, which ties into that, is those who start a business, right, who step into the entrepreneurial realm because of what they see online and on social media and so on about how entrepreneurship is the dream and it's for everybody. Talk to us about why that isn't the truth, because you mentioned some of the hardships you went through, right? And realizing you're getting $40, let's say, per job instead of $1,000 per job. Does that make sense? Perfect. So please go ahead and just talk to us about that piece. Not necessarily a question, but it's more so open for you to touch on that piece and that idea.
Okay, I appreciate that, man. So I want to just say for people that you're gonna have your days where you're gonna like it, and you're gonna have your days where you don't like it. You know, what's crazy last week, I don't know if I was a little underdressed. I think it was the wind. It was way more wind. But last week I had a job that I almost was like, yo, I'm good. Like, I'm straight. I know I started, but I'm like, I'm throwing the towel in. Yesterday was a perfect day, and it snowed. One of my shovels went out on me. I'm sharing this part because while I'm shoveling, a shovel that was like wide, that I was able to get the job done, broke on me in the middle of a job. And I had to now pull out this little shovel that I almost didn't take with me. I had to pull that one out, and I still got the job done. Now, even with that shovel breaking, man, it was just a perfect day. The last event that didn't make it so perfect was somebody said that, hey, I threw some salt down last night. You don't have to come. So that was $50 that I didn't get to make. But my body, let me share this though. Right after that shovel broke, my customer reached out and said, hey, my sister wants you to do hers as well. Can you come back? So the money that I would have made, I still made it. So yesterday was just a perfect day, but last week it was even colder. And I'm not even talking about like the prices yet. This is just circumstance as far as how cold it is and what went right and what went wrong. Mm-hmm. But just to go back, it wasn't pretty at first because I got a job, and what's happening is I'm getting these jobs one by one, and I don't have enough courage to go, no, I don't want to do this. Like, this is not paying me enough. I didn't have enough courage. I'm gonna be honest with you. It wasn't that I want to be an entrepreneur. It was really more so I know how to cut grass. I got people hitting me up, and I don't have enough courage to tell this person, no, I'm not gonna cut your grass. I don't have enough courage to sit there and waddle in the person next to me knowing that I cut grass going, you just told them you don't cut grass? So it was more of I don't want to say I got shamed into doing it, but that's kind of like my upbringing. I was kind of just shamed for a lot of stuff. So when it came down to certain stuff, and let me keep it real. If somebody was trying to persuade me into doing something that was just like really out of line, then I wouldn't have done it. But it was just more so the fact that I know how to cut grass. I'm a man. I don't even know where that came from. I'm a man, and how you gonna be a man? Somebody asks you to cut grass and they gonna pay you, and you tell them no. Like, from where I come from, we don't turn down money. So I kept going with that, and it even hit me a couple times. Like, man, this may not ever go nowhere. Like, I'm not seeing no money. Every dollar that I get, I'm spending it. I'm not realizing that I don't have my bills in order. I don't have a system set up. I don't have a certain amount of clients coming week by week. So you got to get through that part first. Like, you got to get through you got a client here, a client there. Then you got, okay, I got a schedule, or I got a couple people that I got to keep. I got about 4 or 5 people that I got to keep. How well are you going to communicate with them? You know, are you going to do right by them? Are you going to have integrity? Are you going to service their lawn the way it needs to be serviced, to where they keeping you and then they're referring you? Year after year, if you keep up those same habits, more people are going to reach out to you, and then you're just going to be in environments where people just don't call your phone. I remember I had a client or not even a client, but a family member that called me and said, hey, you still cutting grass? And that's another thing too. Year after year, anytime you call me, that's what I do. And I'll say this lastly, just to kind of show you where it's going. I talked to my cousin that lives in Alabama. I don't talk to her regularly. Well, I'm going to start talking to her more regularly. She got on my case. But this just really goes to show you. Talking to my cousin who lives in Alabama, this is over 600 miles from here. She says to me, what you doing? I would have thought you would have been at a yard or something. Now, how would my cousin be able to say something like that to me? Because just about any time you call me, I'm at a yard. It got to a point to where Kadeem will be calling me. I'm at a yard. it gets to a point to where now it seems like when I'm not at work, I'm at a yard. So what's crazy is like right now it's doing wonders for me. I didn't realize that in the next few years I was gonna have weekends off to where I can now have a system of I can do 10 on a Saturday, 10 on Sunday, and back to work on Monday, and nothing gets affected. I didn't know that it was gonna be where it's at now, but I think what happened was I just foolishly took on every job. Hey man, I'm gonna catch up somehow. I'm just gonna keep going. I'm just gonna keep paying on these bills. I'm just gonna keep going. And now I done looked up and I got schedules now. You know, I got clients that I lost a client. Oh man, can you come back? Not bragging, but just I feel the testament is I don't even want to say it for myself, but I'm doing it every year. I'm consistent. I'm considered consistent. Anytime you catch me, that's what I'm doing. You're gonna see some type of pictures going up on Facebook. And that's just what it is. I'm the lawnmower guy. Like you know that's what I do.
The consistency, right? Because obscurity is one of our biggest issues in business. But if you do it long enough with the right actions, because it's not just about being consistent, it's about being consistent with the right actions, which you talked about, getting out there, seeing more people, getting referrals, and sticking to the one thing, which is manicuring lawns, right? So you become known for that. And the more you become known for doing something or being good at something, the more people will refer you, the bigger your business can grow. But you mentioned systems, right? Having those systems in place is what will ultimately help you to scale. If you don't have the system in place, you're just one person, let's say, how are you going to scale? You only have 24 hours in a day. You can only scale so much, right? But now you have the system in place, you can put people in place or whatever the case might be, and that will allow you to scale. Even if it's just you by yourself, still to scale, having a proper system is what will help you get there. But you and me are somewhat opposite ends of the spectrum, right? You are a pilot, for those who know the term. I am an air traffic controller, for those who know the term. You are this is what needs to be done. Let me go do it. I don't necessarily care about the system. I don't care who's at the back of the plane. I'm going, right? For the most part.
Let me interject on that point right there. Do not lose your thought, bro. But I just want somebody to understand this. Bro, I don't know who you is listening to this video or sis, but whatever that job is that you have at your job, and this is why I love being a W-2 employee, because I've dealt with this on my own. There's times at work where I don't feel like I'm as productive as I should or could be talking to some of the other people. I just don't feel that work. Yesterday, I wasn't BSing at all. If you know what the word BS mean, I wasn't BSing. And here, watch this. I had somebody that pulled up on me. One of the guys like, hey man, I thought you had a job. Chopped it up with him for a minute. He seen some people coming out of the house. Said, oh man, I don't want to slow you down. I'm talking to somebody while I'm working. I did about 7 houses yesterday. And when I got home, I said to myself, I'm like, wow, not one time today did I go, man, I can't wait to go home. Man, how can I cut corners doing this? I'm talking about, he said task oriented. Yesterday I was on one. Bro, I'm so mad. Well, I'm not mad because I needed to go home. I made enough money yesterday. But I made more money. So I added up, and if you haven't done this yet, you need to know how much you make at your job per day. So yesterday, and I'm salary right now. I make a decent amount of salary. I'm salary right now, and I added up how much I make per day for my salary check. And I made my salary, if I make that for 5 days a week, times that by 2, I made my salary. So where I'm going with that is that's where you can start to know, like, you know what, is this really for me? Like, can I really will I be able to handle this when I get to that level? And lastly, I just want to say it really made me feel good because I'm like, wow, man, how dare I feel bad for what I don't do at work? How dare I go, man, I ain't giving enough. I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, yo, do you know how much you made yesterday, Mike? And you still had time left in the end of the day? And you ain't even, and I got it when I wanted to. And I still had to stop at Home Depot. Saying all that to say, if you could do it at work, you could do it out here too. And I got way more done out there yesterday than it seemed like I did at work. So the fun part about entrepreneurship is having enough of your days where it's like, man, I don't want to do this. And then a day like yesterday happened. A day where everything go right, a day where all your clients pay. And it's just like, yo, this is cool. Like, wow. And it just really put me in the mindset of, so I'm not lazy at work. I'm just doing the wrong work. You gotta really find what it is that you love to do or like enough to where you know it. Hey, this is a task. I can get this done one at a time, and just kill them. And that's how you know what field. That's how you know what field you need to be in. It's not that you lazy or it ain't you ain't it ain't none of those other things. It's just you doing the wrong work. I was a killer yesterday.
So it's not about loving the task up front. This is what I'm getting from what you're saying, right? It's not about loving the task up front per se, right? Or rather loving to do the job every day, right? The work for the business every day. But knowing that you like to do it, you have a skill for it, you're gifted at it, whatever the case might be. But then getting through those hard days, because some days will be good, some days will be difficult, but then ultimately more days will be good on the back end, right? What people don't realize about entrepreneurship is it's about your compound effort. Up front, you know what you're aiming for, right? And that's why it's so important to have that plan, that vision, those goals, because you know what you're aiming for. If you don't, we need to backtrack a little bit, but you know what you're aiming for. You know you want a certain lifestyle, you know what that lifestyle is going to cost you and what it's going to take to get there. You know that a job may not provide that for you. And so when it comes to that, I'm going to start this business because I'm good at it, because I think I like it, because whatever the case might be. And I'm going to stick to it for X amount of time, X amount of years, X amount of months until I can, or just to see kind of how I like it, what kind of results I can get from it. Up front, again, might be more bad days than good days because you're still figuring things out. You don't have a system in place. It might be tedious or whatever issues you can think of. But on the back end, if you stick to it long enough, you become known enough from other people that, yo, Mike manicures lawns. You need someone to manicure your lawn? Mike's that guy, right? Clean and neat lawn care. That's the one we want to call. Eventually, like we said, it becomes like your day like yesterday. You'll have more of those days because you have the system in place. You have a better understanding of what you like and don't like to do. And you can put people in place for the things that you don't necessarily like to do, but maybe they do like it. And guess what now? Now you're employing people. Now you're helping people to feed their families, right? So again, that compound effort, the only reason you got to that point where you can have a day like yesterday is because you stuck to it, right? You allowed your efforts to compound over time. Doing those days you didn't like to do it or didn't want to do it, those are what led you to the day that you had yesterday. And now you have more of those days, right? So it's a critical piece that you mentioned that. Again, I know we're talking about the things that are beneficial, but a lot of people don't make it through that or those early stages, right? That's one of the reasons they say businesses don't necessarily last the first, 3 to 5 years? Is there a mindset shift that needs to happen? Are there questions you got to ask yourself, things you got to look at differently, tasks you got to do to help you overcome those first few years of, I don't want to do this?
Man, I would say a person got to know, like, why are they even doing it to begin with? You know, and just to be fair, you might not even know, so I don't even want to be perfect. You ain't even got to know why you're doing it. But are you willing to do enough of it? You know, what situation are you in? What situation are you trying to get out of? I was fortunate enough to had a pay cut, and therefore I had just moved to the space that we're currently in now, and I was fortunate enough to where my bills had just kind of like increased, so I kind of had to hustle, and that was another thing too. That winter, like that January to like April, it was a tough time for me. And when I got to summer and I started realizing that little extra pad was keeping me, I'm like, wow. And then what started happening was I started paying down debt. I started getting serious. So in that process, are you getting serious? Are you taking on extra clients? And are you just going to hook and reel? Over here, that's a Cajun seafood spot. that everybody want to go to? Are you going to the mall? Like, what are you doing with that extra money? And thank God I was able to start paying off some of my bills, start paying off some of this equipment. The biggest thing that helped me was I had a trailer that I was not leasing, but I was buying it. The payment was like $187 a month. But watch this. They was adding on an extra $125 for insurance for the trailer because I didn't have insurance on my own. I still would have had to pay the insurance, but now I'm paying into the credit union. It's not going towards the principal. So that's an additional $125 that's coming out of my pocket. Luckily, I just made enough money to be able to make all these payments. And that's another thing right there as well. Does your current job, does it has the ability to support whatever it is that you're trying to do? Most of them do. If you trying to do hair, my wife does hair. If you're doing nails, a lot of that cosmetic stuff doesn't cost much. They getting that stuff shipped from overseas and it's all cheap, but the beauty supply, they getting over on it so bad. But what I'm trying to say is I was just taking care of my business and I started seeing, wow, I mean, I still got money left over. Like, I don't have a whole lot of money left over, but I'm just starting to see, oh, I'm not where I used to be. I'm paying off stuff. I done paid that trailer off. Now I don't have that extra bill. Now I'm seeing more money. So now them yards that I'm cutting, I'm actually seeing that money now. And that's the encouragement that keep you going. If you're not doing nothing, like if you kind of doing a hit or miss, you're never going to, if you're doing a hit or miss, like if you're not doing it consistently, you're never going to find that traction that you need to where you like, yo, this working. Yesterday worked for me because I was really out there. Like I was out there knocking them down. And I've knocked them down several occasions. Watch this. I just want to make it a point to say this. Yesterday was a perfect day because it snowed so bad on a Friday. I'm off on weekends. If that would have been a Monday through Friday type of deal, I would have had to do it when I got off and it would have interrupted my job because I wouldn't have been able to rest as much. So that's why yesterday was perfect. Just for those who like, yo, but how do I get to that to have a day like that? Sometimes they just happen. There's been days where it snowed during my week, but yesterday it snowed on my last day of work. I got off early, was able to chill, and was able to start early Saturday morning on my off day. It just played out like that. So it's a little easier now, but I'll just say this in close. You ultimately have to know, okay, where am I trying to go? Are you in a hole right now? Do you have a goal? Like, are you trying to buy more equipment? Are you trying to save for a house? What are you trying to do? I was just trying to save, or I'm sorry, I was just trying to get out of debt. I'm not out of debt right now, but I've paid off enough payments to where now I have an influx in cash inflow that now I can really knock down debt. And that's my goal. So that's really the motivation.
Yep. You get yourself to a point where you can knock down that debt, but also save more or invest more because you have that influx. So personally, I say entrepreneurship is the best personal development program out there with the best potential compensation attached to it, right? And I want to tie that into, or bring that back, I guess, to earlier when you said marriage, right? It has made you have to shift who you are and become a better version of yourself. So many times you hear people say it, and it's nonsense to me, really. But you hear people say, and typically it's men that I hear say it, why should I change? Or so like I am who I am, and you knew who you were marrying, and so and all of these phrases to me are like, what are you talking about? I'm not married yet, right? I'm still looking for a woman, but it doesn't make sense to me the way they talk about it in that manner, because at the end of the day, you should always be aiming to become a better version of yourself and to, again, like the sleep says, evolve. That it's all about evolving and reaching for your apex, right? Become the greatest version of yourself that you can be. That's my methodology. That's my mantra. That's what I go after. So that being said, what are some shifts you feel that you've had to make when it comes to being a better version of yourself for the marriage, right? And I talk about that because it ties into personal development so perfectly, which ties back into entrepreneurship. So some shifts that you've had to make some things you realize that, you know what, Mike, I shouldn't be doing this. I know I did this before, but that was high school days. That was when I was 15. That was when I was 18. That was when I was 25. We're no longer 25, right? What are some shifts that you realize you had to make? And how did you go about making those shifts?
And to be honest, I'm still making some of those shifts right now, but I would just say the most recent shift was not being stretched as far as having cash, not depending on, your spouse. You got to realize that you got to take care of yourself in order to take care of everybody else. If you're not good and somebody else end up not being good because their human qualities took over, then now you're mad at them because they had a human moment in which you also have human moments. And so my wife had some human moments. And so I'm realizing, you know what, I need to always be in position. I got a business. I'm trying to give my wife a certain life. Now watch this. I just said my wife had a couple human moments, but let me share a human moment that I had. The current job that I now have, my wife, prior to the job that I currently have now, I was getting ready to go get the job and somebody referred me and I thought that I had the job just off the referral. And my wife, like, that's what you gonna wear? You wearing that? You know what I'm saying? My wife had the nerve to say that to me, in which things like that along the way, just her being that support. You know what I'm saying? And then furthermore, just me realizing, like, you know what, man, my wife has gave so much for me to where, okay, my wife had a human moment. I want to be able to cover if she fall down. You know what I'm saying? So really just making sure that I'm always on my P's and Q's, taking care of my business, because I got to be able to support somebody else. And I just feel like my wife has given so much on the front end, sacrificed so much for me. Being a workaholic that I am, she doesn't like let it ruin our relationship. She just at the door greeting me with open arms, even if I come in and I might have an attitude or whatever the case may be. My wife's just there. So the thought is I need to always be in the position where I can provide, and I need to be in a position now because now I feel like I got some momentum. The position that I'm aiming for now is to get more of my time back so I can give more of it to my wife because of the sacrifices that she made. So the end goal is not to just have all this money and just work like crazy for the rest of my life, but to be able to take some time off and relinquish what I've built to somebody else to go, you know what, man, I'm good. I made enough. You can run it. You can take majority or whatever. Kick me back a little piece, and then I'm just going to chill.
Yeah. So I appreciate the transparency. And again, what I'm hearing there is maturity, right? It's growing in maturity, because at one point it was like this, where there might be a little bit of a reliance in terms of finances or lack of preparation in case something were to happen. But with the matured mindset towards that piece, so you know what? I need to make sure that if anything were to happen, we're taken care of. So that at the same time of taking care of the future in case something happens, it relinquishes the financial dependence on, let's say, her, right? And similar with your business, ironically, that there was also the financial maturity, right? Which you kind of alluded to earlier, which is at one point there was your earning so that you can pay off the debts or keep up with your spending rather. But now it's like I'm earning to, yes, pay off those debts, but I'm also saving and investing, because I should always be saving and investing, right? So it's no longer I'm just working this business to pay off these debts, because some of these debts came from the business, right? Which is another thing. I know we're kind of jumping back and forth, but when it comes to starting your business, I want to go back to this and emphasize this point. It is not all rainbows and butterflies. It is not the pot of gold at the end of you making your first call. It might not even be at the end of you making your 100th call, right? You've been doing this for years now. I've been doing this for years now. And I know some people, it depends, right? Everyone's situation is different. I know some people who started a cleaning business. They have no business starting a cleaning business, right? They've never really worked in cleaning like that and so on, but they're not the ones going to the house to clean. So However, when they made their first, I think 5 calls, they got themselves a big contract which brings in thousands of dollars every month. They're not stepping into a house to clean it. They're hiring people and whatnot, but nonetheless, they got that within a short time span, right? Others may be in business for 3 to 5 years before they see something like that. So again, I'm saying everyone has a different trajectory, and it may be that entrepreneurship is not for you, because maybe you don't want to go through those first few years of hardship. Maybe you don't want to have to develop and grow. Maybe you, after 3 years of doing it, still don't have a vision in mind or a real why for doing this, right? And which I want to come back to for you, Mike. You mentioned when you first started the business, it was more so, I'm good at this, and people were kind of pushing you towards it, right? So you maybe didn't necessarily have a real vision, a goal, or a why as to why you're doing it or where you plan to be because of doing it. And I know that has changed. So I'm going to ask you, what would be some of your, let's say your goal, or more so your why for staying in the business now and continuing to build it?
So I've been waiting on you to ask me a question like that. So me and my wife recently went to Vegas, and I paid for the tickets and everything up front. I actually financed the plane tickets, but it was paid for. Nothing needed to be worried about. So while we were there, I did some research, and I'm thinking, Comfort is gonna be cool. We flew Delta Comfort to Vegas. Vegas was about a 4.5 hour flight. I think it turned out to be 4 hours. But my wife still was uncomfortable because she was in the middle seat. I was in the aisle, and she was basically saying, I didn't want to make you uncomfortable. And so I just kind of was just stuck. So I'm like, dang. So while we was in Vegas, I looked to see how much it was going to be for us both to fly back home first class. Turned out to be like $600. I financed that as well. So follow me. I'm building up this pressure. So I got these financial obligations that I have to pay. Now, again, we talked about earlier how I'm taking on jobs to keep up with my spending. So watch this. I lost a client yet last year because there was some bad communication, and they still kept me on a file. So going back to the $600 that I spent, and I just want to kind of like finish painting out this story. So fast forward a little bit, we at the airport, and my wife she kind of got like this strange energy going on. I asked her, are you okay? She like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm just trying to prepare myself for this flight. Not knowing that I already done spent this money on these tickets. So watch this. You asked me basically like, yo, bro, why do you want to continue to go into this entrepreneurship? So that guy that I told you that we had some bad communication, somebody reached out to me from his contact and said, hey man, we got some work that we need you to do. Now, the total of the amount of work that I did was, yeah, you would never guess, $600. Now watch this. That was a split executive decision that I made to get these tickets first class. Everything else was spent, but this was like, you know what? Let me just spend this $600. A random job just come out of nowhere for $600. Now I'm going, okay, cool. I was looking this morning at some flights for Singapore. I think it's pronounced Singapore or something like that.
Singapore, yeah.
$18,000 flights for the lay down boy, business class. So I'm going in my mind like, you know what, man, that's kind of steep, but it's not really steep. I just got to get enough jobs to be able to pay for that. And what's crazy is I got a job right now. So I'm kind of getting a taste of what it looks like to, oh, that was another gig. Oh, that was another gig. I got a job right now for someone who may have a business. The job is doing what it's due. The job is paying all my regular bills. Then I get a call. Hey, we need you to do this. And mind you, that was just one job that replaced the tickets. I was getting texts while I was down in Vegas going, can you do our leaves? That's a whole nother story. But when you really think about the fact that when you really think about you can get a job or a contract that can pay for the life that you want to live, it's like, why wouldn't you continue on to this? Why wouldn't you continue? And I'm about to drop the bomb with this. You don't even have to like this. Bro, in the next 5 years, I could sell all my lawnmowers and be done with it. Like, you know what, man? I just wanted to get enough money to pay my bills. That's where I'm at with it. You don't have to be stuck to whatever it is that you do. Bro, one of my legs is longer than the other one, so sometimes I'll be having hip issues. So that sometimes be a, man, am I going to be able to do this? But I am on stand-up lawnmowers. They got to sit down, so that's going to extend my career. Hello? Here's what I'm saying. I done got a little excited. You do not have to, I repeat, you do not have to love or like your side business or your now business. You can grow the business, you can sell the business, you can grow it, have somebody else run it. I can get this up because, like I said, it ain't always fun. But all you got to do is use the business to either pay off your debt, get that bag that you want, whatever goal that you have. That's all you got to do. You do not have to fall in love with this business. I just so happen to now I fall in love with it because I realized, like, yo, it ain't shooting the ball. It ain't what LeBron do. I ain't no billionaire, but it's what I do. It actually comforts me. People admire my work. You know what I'm saying? I done got over the, dang, man, I ain't in the NBA. Dang, man, I ain't no rapper. I done got over that. Bro, once I realized I can still pay for first class tickets by cutting the grass. Oh, what? Bro, listen, it rained $20 bills Friday night. They talk about money don't grow on trees. Shoot. Man, what? Listen, I'll say this in close. I went to my homeboy house last night, and as I'm walking through the snow, I'm talking to myself. I'm like, damn, that's crazy. I done already made a bag from what I'm walking over right now. And it's still out there. It's melting and everything. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So bro, there's so much you said there. We don't got the time for all of it, unfortunately, but there's so much you said there. I'm like, shoot, we definitely need to talk about that. I just messed up my screen here. It's not shooting the ball. It's not what LeBron does. It's not what MJ did. It's not what Curry does or whoever, but it's what you do. And that's one of the two critical pieces, right? So that's one of them. And I'll come back to it because another piece that you said, which is you don't have to fall in love with the business. Think about a lot of big time business people. Elon Musk. He started off by creating a business and then selling that business. I want you to realize that. So exactly in alignment with what you just said, Mike, you could start a business. Maybe you love it, maybe you don't love it, but you can then sell that business. And then that could put you in a position to really start the thing that you love to do, or just position you in a different area in life as you step towards figuring out what you really want to do. So you don't have to, yeah.
Or along the way, it teaches you how to be responsible. You might not necessarily like the business, but it's teaching you how to, oh, you know what? I got to have my books. I got to have the money for taxes. I got to have whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So it's, again, people, I got to find what I'm passionate about. I got to do what I love to do. And not necessarily. Yes, eventually you want to get there. Let's say when it comes to a business that you want to do long term, right? For the rest of your life, the rest of your career. Yes, you have to have the level of passion or love for it, right? Me in coaching, I love to help people in a nutshell. I love to help people and see the transformation and help them to unlock what's within them, right? And so that's one of the reasons I will be coaching for the rest of my life. And I have been coaching throughout my whole life. You, Mike, are one of the people that helped me to realize that. I've been coaching my whole life. I just didn't necessarily know it. And I will be coaching the rest of my life. Now, to go back to it, yes, when it comes to a business that you want to do for the rest of your life or a long-term career, you got to have a level of love for it, for at least an aspect of it. Not the whole thing per se, but at least an aspect of it, right? But it doesn't have to start there. You can start off not necessarily knowing why you're doing it or what you want to do, but you have an idea of why you're doing it because you know what, I need to pay these bills right now, right? Something more short-term. But eventually you can then sell that or build it out, scale it, put people in the right position where you know you're hands off completely. You're no longer self-employed. You're now in the business category and it does its own thing. You're making millions of dollars from that. Or again, sell it, transition. Now you're making millions of dollars from what that thing led to, where you put that income or that payout for selling the business. What do you put that towards? Is that now making you $1 million plus or whatever is enough to sustain your life? And again, don't get caught up on the social media thing, which is kind of how we started this whole conversation, because you pointed out you're not shooting a basketball, you're not kicking a soccer ball, but you're doing what you do best. And everybody has their specialty. A lot of our specialties, Like mine, for example, I mentioned I'm an air traffic controller. I'm behind the scenes. You don't really see an air traffic controller, but I still do what I do very well. And that counts for something because we are all part of a system, and each person, each kind of character is needed in the system for it to operate the way it's supposed to operate. The pilot cannot just get in the plane and take off. We got to do the safety checks. That's where I come in, right? We got to make sure that there's no traffic in the way, right? There's a whole bunch of different people making this system work the way it needs to work. So real quick, lastly, I want to ask you a question. Thinking back, what would you tell your younger self that you, like a very critical piece of information? Let me just read this verbatim because I wrote this down. What piece of powerful advice would you leave for your younger self or someone else just starting their entrepreneurial journey?
Man, what's crazy is I couldn't even remember how I wanted to phrase what I wanted to say, but I was already ready before you even asked the question. So if you watching this, man, you're going to feel this. I don't care how much money you make, you're going to feel it. Since I've been a kid, since I've been like, I don't even know what age to go back to, but it was just always something to have $500, $500+. And even more than that, it was just always something to where when you get your check and you pay your bills, you got 500, 1,000, or a couple hundred, just a substantial amount of money after you paid your bills. That was just always something that I always wanted. Like, man, I just want to have a nice amount of money after that. But the question that you got to ask yourself is, then what? So I'm getting to that point because the point that I'm getting to is I've gotten to a place where I have more than just a couple dollars left after I pay out my bills after my check. I'm realizing, like, you know what? What do I need to hold on to this money for? Like, what is it doing? It's doing me more harm by sitting in my account, by having it or saving it. I'm about to just throw every dime that I can on whatever bill that I can. So what I would tell to my younger self is that extra $300 that you had left over out your check, spend that, bro. Like, spend that on that payment, on that debt. Man, it was payments that I had when I was younger. I'm like, yo, how did I think that was a lot of money? $200 for a wedding ring that I ended up switching to another different type of payment plan just with some financial troubles. But I would be getting all that money out of my hand, throwing as much money as I can on all this debt, because when you start that business, the amount of money that's going to come, and especially if you keep your hands at it, you're going to get that money right back so fast. So I feel like I had got to a point where I would have $200, $300, $400 after my check and will be feeling good off that. Like, man, I'm finally here. I finally got $1,000. Let me hold on to this. But what would happen is I was slowly but surely, I'm happy. Oh, now I'm down to $3. And it's like, I could have really just, you know what? I'm going to hold on to this. I'm about to go this, boom. All right, so now that's gone. We ain't worried about that. I'm getting comfortable with this now. Now I can, instead of just having this, I can, you know what? Let me figure out how to minimize this. Let me do some meal prepping. So now I can put this one up and now I got two. I still got these over here and I already paid the bulk. Now I still got this. I'm about to learn to appreciate this. You know what else I'm about to do? Take some up, break it again. So now I still got this. I'm learning how to get comfortable with this. Now when those jobs start coming in, it's going to come in like this at a time. Every week now. So all that, oh man, I'm in love with this though. No, bro, get that out your hands fast because it's going to come back fast. So that's what I would tell my younger self.
I love that. And to break it down in another way, I heard this said this way recently, and it's like, I like that. I always said it differently, same concept, but it's meant to be a river, not a reservoir. Money should not sit there. It's meant to flow, right? So I love that right there. Thank you for that, bro. Mike, my brother, I appreciate you. I love you. And thank you for being a guest on this podcast. For anybody listening, hopefully you got something out of that. And I know you did. You got to pay attention. Oftentimes it's about what you catch, not what you're taught, but about what you catch, right? The best lessons, they say, are not taught, they are caught. So hopefully you listen, caught some of the principles and hidden gems in this one. Mike, again, we appreciate you for being on here, and everybody else, we'll see you on the next one.